Like we talked about in our locker room after the game ended, where obviously people were pretty disappointed in the outcome.
Caitlin the rookie sensation who took the WNBA by storm, just dropped a bombshell. She's retiring from the league. Yeah, you heard that right. The NCAA's all-time scoring leader is walking away. But why? What could push such a talented player to make this shocking decision? Remember when Clark was the talk of college basketball? Well, her WNBA debut took things to a whole new level. But behind the scenes, something was eating away at her. What could make the brightest star in women's basketball feel so alone in a packed arena? Let's rewind a bit and talk about Clark's college days. This girl was unstoppable at Iowa. She wasn't just good, she was rewriting the history books. Clark became the NCAA women's basketball career scoring leader, smashing a record that stood for over 50 years. That's not just impressive, that's legendary stuff right there. So when draft day rolled around, it was no surprise that the Indiana Fever snagged Clark as the first overall pick. The hype was real, folks. Everyone was wondering if she could bring that same magic to the pros. And boy, did she deliver.
I think it gave us a taste of where we wanted to be. At the same time, I felt like we could have done a little bit more. That's what really kind of stunk about the whole thing.
Clark hit the WNBA like a hurricane. Her debut, it was like nothing we've ever seen. Fans were going crazy. Ticket sales were through the roof. People who never cared about women's basketball before were suddenly glued to their screens just to watch Clark do her thing. You want to know what's really wild? Clark wasn't just living up to the hype, she was blowing past it. We're talking deep three-pointers that had people jumping out of their seats, assists that looked like something out of a highlight reel. This rookie was playing like she'd been in the league for years. Her stats were off the charts for a first-year player. 16.2 points and 6.6 assists per game? That's not rookie numbers. That's all-star territory. Clark wasn't just good, she was changing the game. People were saying she was redefining what a guard could do in women's basketball.
But I thought it gave us a taste of where we wanted to be, and that's exactly the message that Chrissy iterated throughout the locker room, and that our coaches kind of iterated when they talked. So I think that's what the message was for us, is like, hey, great, we got the 6th seed, our goal was, but we probably could have given ourselves a little bit better of a chance.
But here's where things get interesting. While Clark was lighting up the scoreboard and breaking attendance records, something else was going on. Something that wasn't making the headlines or showing up in the box score. You see, being a superstar isn't all it's cracked up to be. Sure, Clark was dominating on the court, but off the court? That's a whole different story. In her own words, she said, "Nobody gives me advice in-game, I wish." Can you imagine that? The biggest name in women's basketball, feeling all alone in the middle of a packed arena. You might think being a WNBA superstar is all glamour and glory, but what if the truth was so shocking? It could make you see the entire sport in a different light. Clark's experience pulls back the curtain on a side of professional basketball that fans never get to see. Let's talk about what's really going down on the court. Clark isn't just facing tough defense, she's getting hammered out there. We're talking elbows flying, headshots, the whole 9 yards. This isn't your typical physical play. It's like she's got a target on her back every time she steps on the court.
It's just that, you have to let this kind of burn inside of you and let it kind of bother you in a way that it's going to drive you through the off season. But you got to let it, hurt you a little bit and really drive you throughout the off season.
Now, you'd think the WNBA would step in to protect their new star, right? Wrong. Clark's feeling left out to dry. The league's not doing much to keep her safe, and it's taking a toll. Imagine being the hottest rookie in the game and feeling like no one's got your back. That's crazy, right? But wait. It gets worse. Clark's dealing with racial harassment too. And get this, she says the refs are practically doing nothing about it. Can you believe that? The face of the league dealing with this kind of treatment and nobody's stepping up to shut it down. You know what's really messed up? Clark's feeling all alone in this. She's out there breaking records, selling out arenas, and yet she can't even get some in-game advice from the vets. It's like she's on an island out there, trying to figure everything out by herself. This is the dark side of being a WNBA superstar that nobody talks about.
Those aren't fans, those are trolls, and it's a real disservice to the people in our league, the organization, the WNBA. But there are a lot of really good fans, whether they've been fans for 20 plus years. Yeah, it's definitely upsetting. I don't think nobody in our league should be facing any sort of racism, hurtful, disrespectful, hateful comments and threats.
Sure, you've got the fame, the fans, and the highlight reels. But behind all that, there's a whole lot of pressure and not much support. It's like being thrown into the deep end without a life jacket. Think about it. Clark's gone from being the queen of college ball to feeling like she's fighting a losing battle in the pros. The physical toll, the lack of protection, the isolation, it's all adding up. And you've got to wonder, how long can even a superstar like Clark keep this up? This isn't just about one player having a tough time, it's about the whole WNBA system. If someone like Caitlin is struggling this much, what's it like for the players who aren't in the spotlight? It's making people question what's really going on behind the scenes in women's pro basketball. You've got to ask yourself, is this what it takes to make it in the WNBA? Dealing with dangerous play, racial harassment, and feeling completely alone? It's not exactly the dream career these players signed up for. Speaking of scratching the surface, Clark just blew the lid off the whole thing. Picture this, your team just lost in the playoffs, your future's looking bright, and then, boom, you announce you're done. What's going on behind the scenes that we don't know about? Let's talk about what went down. The Indiana Fever, Clark's team, had just been knocked out of the playoff. It was a tough loss, but everyone was thinking, no big deal. They'll be back next year, even stronger. I mean, with Clark on the roster, how could they not be? But then, out of nowhere, Clark drops a bombshell that no one saw coming. She's retiring from the WNBA. Yeah, you heard that right. The rookie sensation, the one who's been breaking records and filling arenas, is hanging up her jersey. Can you believe it? It's like Michael Jordan retiring after his rookie year. It just doesn't happen. But here's the thing, Clark didn't just say, I'm out. She poured her heart out in a statement that's got everyone talking. She said, this game has given me so much, and I will always cherish the memories I've made. It's like she's saying goodbye to an old friend, you know? You can feel the emotion in her words. Now, you're probably thinking, wait a minute, why would she walk away when she's on top? Well, hold on to your seats, because this is where it gets really interesting. Clark isn't just retiring, she's making a move that's gonna shake up the whole basketball world. She's heading to Europe. Yeah, you heard that right. Clark's packing her bags and crossing the pond, but why? She says it's for better treatment and respect as a player. Can you imagine that? The brightest star in the WNBA feels like she needs to leave the country to get the respect she deserves? That's insane! Think about what this means for the WNBA. Their golden girl, the one who's been selling out arenas and bringing in new fans, feels like she's not getting treated right. It's like the league just scored on their own basket, you know what I mean? But here's what's really wild about Clark's decision. It's not just about her leaving, it's about her standing up for herself and potentially changing the game forever. She's basically saying, hey, if you're not gonna treat me right, I'll go somewhere that will. That's some serious courage right there. You've gotta wonder how many other players are feeling the same way. Is Clark just the first domino to fall? Are we gonna see a mass exodus of WNBA talent heading overseas? This could be the start of something huge in women's basketball. And let's talk about the fans for a second. Can you imagine how they're feeling right now? One minute they're cheering for Clark, buying her jersey, planning to watch her for years to come. The next minute, she's gone. It's like a gut punch to every WNBA fan out there. But maybe, just maybe, this is the wake-up call the league needs. Maybe Clark's bold move will force them to take a hard look at how they treat their players. Because let's face it, if they can't keep a superstar like Caitlin Clark happy, something's gotta change.